currently watching The Vomitorium. You can support the show at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Enjoy the show! The Vomitorium! Did you know that bees make up every percent of my favorite star system? Bees also know that they can go support the show at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Buzz buzz!
that orcs and the like the Urukai and stuff like that, tend to change a lot of things over. They tend to have like face coverings and stuff. Like they'll wear helmets that will cover the tops of their face or their eyes and stuff, and they'll have holes cut through it for that purpose, so they can march around in the daytime. It's not like they can't beat the sunlight. They did it all the time. They just preferred to walk in the cover of night or overcast. Like the reason they had a lot of time to prepare in Helm's Deep is because it was bright out, but the overcast was coming, and they knew that's when the fight was going to start, when the clouds were covering everything from night into the daytime. And it's
and like even when at the end of that battle, the Battle of Helm's Deep, when the sunlight comes up over the hill, when Gandalf is charging at them, I mean, the sunlight blinds them, which it would anyone.
Yeah.
But they don't start smoking and like burning.
No, they still have to be killed.
I know. It's ridiculous.
It's kind of like, it's almost like an RPG character in a way, right? Like how night elves are buffed at night and they're debuffed during the day. It's not that they can't do anything. They're just not as strong in the sunlight,
No, I mean, half the plot of this is that they're digging this tunnel to get from one town to another because they can't go so that they can march around during the day because it's covered.
Yeah.
And it's like, why did they have to do that? That's ridiculous. They didn't have to do that. But then in the show, they literally start smoking when they go out into the sun. Yeah. And they have to send the warg out into the sunlight.
Yeah, no, orcs are literally just corrupted elves. Like they can walk around. No, there are things that do have direct weakness in the sun. Like trolls cannot be in the sun; they turn to stone.
Right.
Yeah.
But like that whole battle with the wargs in the Two Towers, that takes place in the sunlight.
Yeah. And there are orcs riding on top of them. It's not just the dogs sent out.
Yeah, I'm okay at GMT. Thanks for asking. I've been hoarse for months. I don't know. I got something stuck in my throat. It won't come out. I've just been hoarse. I don't know. Maybe allergies. Maybe, I don't know. I got to go to the doctor, but I feel fine. Thanks for asking.
It sounded like I did after screaming for 4 hours after the wrestling.
Yeah.
That's how I got after every Screw Attack gaming convention. It's like I was powering through the whole time, but I didn't end up like drinking enough water and eating properly. So by the time the convention was over, my voice was just shot from all the screaming.
Yeah. I'm just reading Buck's text.
Yeah.
In the chat. You want to read that?
I can read it. It's like, they're weaker, so they're not as strong. It's as dumb as, haha, a common thug with a gun shall kill you now, Aquaman, because you're not as strong out of the water. Proceeds to be crushed by a flying shipping container. Yeah. I mean, in general, orcs aren't as strong in the sunlight, but that's like, I don't know, a hungry man, I would consider that, right? Like, you go from being tip-top condition to, I haven't eaten in many hours, so I don't have as much energy. That's kind of like the difference between being in the night and the sun. They feel drained. They can still fight in a more fatigued state, but they can fight. They can swing weapons. They have armor on. They don't just immediately die for anything.
Yeah. And then, did you want to start the show?
Yeah. Welcome to the Vomitorium, everyone. As always, I am your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. Aside from worse, how you feeling?
Feel fine.
Yeah.
I got sleep and everything.
I did.
I've been, sorry about that. I've been getting in my exercise. I got my watch tracking, and it's telling me to exercise every day, so.
Yeah. It's not letting you know that you're missing sleep from too much masturbation?
Not yet, but What I needed to do is
Gives a
tell me
focus.
I needed to tell me to stop eating. That's my problem.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Enough. Stop eating. Throw the rest out.
You like a
I have
personal
a
trainer with a cattle prod.
yeah. That's the problem because yeah, I go, I exercise for 30 minutes every day, and that burns all of, I don't know, 200 or 300 calories, and then I can eat that in literally 5 minutes or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting
That's
there.
how many extra
I'm on it.
steps does mass? Never mind. I don't want to know. That's what Jim T says. I don't think it counts as steps. Well, I guess unless it's counting the swinging of your arms with each step, which is a horrible way to count steps. But
Well, it doesn't count exercising unless I actually start an exercise by tapping it, and it gives you options like outdoor walk, indoor walk, cross training. Would that count as cross training, do you think, or multi-sport, or
No, it's not multi-sport unless somebody else is involved.
how about high intensity interval training? Would that be it?
Could. It depends.
Functional
No,
strength training.
If somebody else is involved, they can definitely be high intensity interval training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pilates, yoga. I don't know. I'll have to. Maybe you can add. Maybe
Indoor
I can add
walk,
one.
it's only one letter out to indoor wank. No bugs. Burn 200 to
There you
300
go.
calories, consume 12,000 in a day. Probably not that extreme. Most people don't consume 12,000. Actually, you'd be lucky if you can consume more than 6,000. Most people's bodies would reject that. But
My problem is right now
No.
I'm basically eating exactly the same amount that I'm burning every day.
yeah.
I lost a bit at the beginning, but haven't lost any in the last week or
But
so.
that's the issue too. Like, it doesn't matter if most people would reject like 6,000. To get fat, you only need to eat like 1,000 or 2,000 a day because people don't need that much calories. Most meals should probably be somewhere between 50 and 150. We just eat like huge meals here in the States.
Yeah. Well, I am on a mission, and I've got cool thing about the watch. Not to be like an Apple, fanboy or anything, but Peach has a watch, and we can do a week-long competition against each other. And so I can see how much she's exercising every day, and she sees mine, and then you get points for things, adds it all up to see who wins at the end of the week. So makes it fun. You get badges, and it gamifies it.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
It's kind of like when people on the Peloton program like to race the other people and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, and they added, I just updated to watch OS 9, I think. They added, it compares your workouts to the last time you worked out. And I guess it keeps a log, and it tells you what your average has been, and then it compares you to your average. That's something new they added. So it's pretty cool. GMT says she can pair her watch to her Steam Deck.
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
A Pine Time tells the time and has a terminal.
Neat.
I
Well,
don't have fitness trackers. I think the two closest things I ever had to a fitness tracker was my 3DS, which was keeping steps, which I only used for play coins anyway, and what's it called? There was the step counter that came with Pokemon. It was Poke something. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Everything's Poke something.
Pokeball Plus or something like that.
No, it was an old one for Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Switch Sports. No,
I'm trying to remember what it was.
I do have.
I still have one too. I had two at one point. Somebody gave me theirs.
I do have Ring Fit Adventures. I need to go back to using that. But anyway, to finish my story, Nerdrotic put out a very mild, brief tweet, just making fun of the scene where
that was it. was a Pokewalker.
Oh, okay. Where he said something about the scene where the orcs ran out of the forest, but only a little bit, and then they waited. They waited until the heroes like got farther away from them before they started shooting arrows. And this one guy on Twitter like went through every response and replied to everyone that replied to him. And I was like, that must have taken hours, dude, to respond. Not just to him, but to like everyone that responded to him. It's crazy. Like, dude, get off of Twitter.
I don't know how many people have ever fired a bow and an arrow before. I've fired many bows, and I can tell you something. There's actually something that bothers me in video games. Like I'll be playing a tactics game, and the bow and arrow can only shoot between like 3 and 5 spaces away or something. Like you can't shoot something that's point blank in front of you, and when each space is supposed to be like a 5x5 foot square, right? That's a long distance. If you're on both opposite sides of the square, there's like almost 10 feet in between you and your target, right? So you should be able to shoot somebody who's literally 1 square away from you and still have enough time to ready a bow. But like, it's way easier to shoot something in point blank range than it is something that's far away. Like, you would want to shoot the target as close to you as possible if they're running from you.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like it has to, it's not a gun. It's not building up momentum in the barrel. The second it leaves the string, it is only losing momentum through the air at that point. You actually have the most power it has the instant it leaves the string. That's the most energy it's ever going to have to hit somebody.
Plus, one of the characters stumbles and falls, and that's why they stop like just outside the forest to like, you know, grab and pick him up. Like perfect time to start shooting arrows.
Yeah.
You know, but they had plot armor, so obviously they couldn't start doing that.
Yes, a compound bow does count GMT. In fact, it even reinforces the idea that the most energy your arrow is ever going to have is the second it leaves the string.
Yeah. So yeah, Rings of Power. Oh my God. There's so many provable, like objective things wrong with it that like you can't help but see. I watched the show, so it came out yesterday. No, Thursday. Came out Thursday, and I watched the show without watching anyone else's commentary. I mean, obviously, I watched it right when it came out, and I've noticed all the same things that everyone else noticed. It was just like, this show is so fucking bad. It's so bad.
Yeah.
There's a scene right in the beginning where they're having this MAGA rally where they're basically like, we hate illegal aliens. They're taking our jobs because one elf showed up in Numenor, and they're just freaked out about it. And then there's a scene where Galadriel overpowers 3, like with nothing, overpowers 3 armored male Numenorian guards who are supposed to be, who look like they're about 6'6".
Yeah, and I'm trying to think about that. Because elves are basically superhuman, right? So like a female elf should be able to overpower a male human, but like I think the Numenorians, I think that still shouldn't go in her favor.
Aren't the Numenorians supposed to be like legendary?
Yeah, like I
fighters.
I still don't see it going in her favor in a power match. Like if she actually used magic like she's supposed to because she's a sorceress, then I could see her easily taking out 3 of them. But
she basically surprises one. She surprises one, grabs him, throws him into the others, and they all go flying into this jail cell, and she shuts the door.
Yeah.
In like 2 seconds, I was like, really? I don't know about that. I could see her surprising one guy and overpowering him, but the other 2 are right behind her. So it is such a bad episode. But I guess you haven't seen it, so I won't bore you.
Yeah, I've only seen clips, and I don't plan on it. Sounds horrible.
Yeah, we can change the subject.
Yeah. But,
So did you want to talk about Comicsgate?
Yeah, you can do that first. I've got a lot of other stuff pulled up in case we need to fill time, but...
All right. So, this is interesting thing that happened this week. It's not exactly specifically about Comicsgate. One pair of contacts to rule them all. It's more about just indie comics in general. Let me share my screen. So, what I'm showing is Gem Shock issue number 1. It is a campaign by Mandy Summers on Indiegogo. And I'm going to actually, just going to refresh the page and make sure I'm logged in, actually. Oops, well, you can see my email, but that's all right. That's my business email anyway.
Yeah, as long as we can't see the password, I guess that's the important part.
Right. All right, so I'm logged in, Marsupial. So I'm looking at the campaign. I'm following it because I think I backed it. And I'm seeing it and everything. Now watch this. I'm going to go to Indiegogo.com. Let me just refresh the page real quick. Make sure everyone can see that. And I'm going to scroll down to a section called Projects You Are Following.
Yeah.
Now you notice it's not here, but you can keep scrolling. No Gem Shock. No Gem Shock. No Gem Shock. It's not there. Recently viewed. It's not there.
It should be the most recent one.
Yeah, should be. I refreshed the page. It's not there. This campaign has been shadow banned by Indiegogo. And unlike, the interesting thing about this is that unlike other situations like with Twitch and YouTube, this was actually turned out to be provable. Like most other sites, you can't really see what's going on behind the scenes, and so you can kind of guess, like maybe it's because of this, maybe it's because of that, maybe coincidence or something. Turns out, YouTuber and actually comic book creator, the creator of this Krishna Kid named Kami Mark, discovered that the shadow banning flag is visible in the page code. There is actually a flag on the campaign page itself. If you look in the HTML, I won't go into it now, but if you look in the HTML of the page, you'll see a promotable flag. And it's either on or it's off. And if it's off, you're essentially shadow banned. You also can't see it if you explore the comics section. It doesn't show up at all. And so our resident hacker, Pixel Trader, created a page called shadowban.indiecron.com where he scraped the HTML and he allows you to put in the website of an Indiegogo campaign and submit it. Now, this is Krishna Kid.
Yeah, and it basically just checks whether that promotable thing is on or off, right?
Yeah. And he looks at three other flags that I don't think are necessary for this situation. I think these have to do
I know what those are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Google search feed and promotion things. Which there are 3 different aspects for that. Whether it shows up in actual search, whether it can be scrolled for a Google ad, because a lot of these sites like Indiegogo have randomized Google ads that will show different campaigns and stuff. And the last one should be third party search information. Okay.
So those aren't very important. The important thing is this one flag, promotable, yes. And it says, doesn't appear you're shadow banned. If I go back, if I go back to Mandy's campaign, and there are several that are like this. I'm going to copy that. He needs to have a reset button. I'm going to put in Gemshock. Promotable, no. It appears your shadow ban. Well, obviously Pixel Trader wrote that.
Yeah.
But this is the flag, and it's just on the page. It's in the HTML of the page, so he's able to just scrape it off of there. And sure enough, so that the reason I showed Krishna Kid is because that was having this situation up until very recently, and Kami Mark went in and he contacted Indiegogo over the course of a week. They flipped the flag from no to yes, and boom, it shows up. So that's definitely what's doing it.
GMT says, I'm not sure which offends me the most, the shadow ban or the crappy implementation of it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I could look. I mean, let me see. Promotable. I'm curious to see. I don't know if I should do
the
this.
HTML.
Yeah, let me view page source. There it is. Real simple.
Yeah.
So
like we were talking about
meta.
this a little bit off stream, but most sites you cannot see this. And one of the reasons for that is that most sites have both a client side, which is what you interact with, and then they'll have like a separate server interface that like the HTML will have things that'll ping. And it's weird that they decided that they're just going to run this. I guess it's just a very simple site that way.
Yeah.
So you can see this stuff.
Yeah. It's crazy. And I can't think of any others off the top of my head. Obviously, I'd have to go and search, but I've seen other people try this site out. It's shadowban.indiecron.com, CRON. And you can just put in an HTML of any site from Indiegogo, and it'll scrape that out and show you. Or you can just look at the code.
Yeah.
You can just view page source and you can see it. So it's
not even that far down.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the meta, which is basically before the actual viewable part of the screen shows up. So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's not too surprising, but it's like nobody's been able to figure out why. Why was Krishna Kid shadow banned? Nobody knew. Why was Gemshock? Well, I mean, it was up for a while, but then it started getting mass reported by some anti-CGers. Basically, someone tweeted out. I don't know if I should mention the name. Vicky tweeted out that she found it offensive because this wasn't here, this black bar. So she found it, the partial nudity offensive, and it got mass flagged like 15 times in a row. So I think Indiegogo just threw their hands up and were like, oh, well, it's, we don't care. Just turn off the flag and boom, it disappears.
Puritanism.
So, yeah. So she put this stuff on here like yesterday or maybe today. Just the bars.
I like that though. That promotional stuff, it makes it funnier. Like obviously you wouldn't want that on the actual print, but for promotion, that's funny. I probably would have put something like that there in the first place.
Yeah, she probably should have. Too hot for Indiegogo. Mm-hmm. See the real thing if you buy this, right?
Yeah.
She left some of these on, but I guess the ones that people complained about.
The more risque.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the drama of the week for Comicsgate, and props to Kami Mark for finding that, discovering that, and to Pixel Trader for making his little tool. So
yeah.
We got smart people in Comicsgate. I'll turn off my screen.
Yep, I would not have known of this if you did not bring it up. I'm always out of loop on this stuff.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I pay attention to a lot of the drama. Gets me in trouble sometimes.
Dram.
Yeah. Just jelly of Mandy. A lot of people are jelly of Mandy.
Yeah. It's like bleeping audio. It's funnier than leaving in whatever was said. I agree. So, like, I've brought this up before. One of my favorite examples of that is the game Brutal Legend, where Jack Black is the main voice of the game. Like, he's the character that you play. Eddie Rakes, I think is his name. And there are two options. There is the uncensored version where he just swears in the scenes and everybody swears. And then there's a censored version where it, like, bleeps everything out. But, like, the censored version is way funnier than the actual version of the game. And it's the recommended way to play the game. Like, or at least that's the way I would recommend playing it, because it's hilarious the way it just, like, awkwardly bleeps things out.
Yeah. I'm going to put in the chat a link to Rift Riders, which is a comic book that Piper and our good friend John Dillard have out there. It's got 15 days left. And John...
Subtitle there's the scene in Austin Powers, yeah.
There's a link to Rift Riders, which is tragically underfunded. People need to, and Luke Stone also. People need to check that one out. It is not shadow banned, luckily.
Oh, it also reminds me of one of my favorite YouTube videos. I think the title is "The Count Likes to Swear." Or something like that, and it is a bleeped version.
I've seen that.
Yeah, the Count singing "I like to count," but they bleep out the word "count," and it sounds like he's saying "I like to fuck."
Yeah,
yeah. And the funniest line is when he says, "I fuck the candles in the halls."
Yeah, if you've got like a female character on your front of your comic book, even if she's not nude, just put black bars over.
Yeah. You'll probably sell more, too. And then people be disappointed when they get the version that doesn't have the bars. Like, what? There's nothing here.
That's right. You say, well, I didn't say there was.
The Count, but needlessly censored. You think maybe. I know the video has had several different titles. It changes every so often.
Yeah, I've seen lots. I think there's a lot of Sesame Street needlessly censored stuff like that. Like Elmo and Grover. It's good stuff.
Yeah. See, good news. Melvin number 2 is done. That's good.
That's cool.
Good for you, Tim. It's a lot of work getting a comic done.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I backed that. I think.
Yeah. I also don't blame GMT for not backing anything. An international move can definitely make things hard. At least, like, if you're in the same country, you can always do, like, a change of address type form or whatever. So if something goes to the wrong place, they'll reroute it. Or if it was going to go to the wrong place, they'll see it in the system and they'll reroute it before it goes anywhere. But if you're doing international, it's like the different postal services can't really communicate with each other that way. You might as well wait until you're settled.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so apparently Indiegogo does respond if you pester them for about a week. Like, it takes a week to flip that little switch. And so, yeah, if anyone discovers that their campaign has been flagged, ask them why, or shadow banned, ask them why, and see if you can get it turned, because it's easy. It's easy to flip it off or on. They just need to get off their butts and do it. I swear I should be in charge. We should be in charge of these companies.
I don't know if we should be in charge of these companies. We should just make a better company. That would be a better idea.
Yeah.
It's hard to change something that's already got a culture. You just change it as it is by making new things.
Well, if I make $500 million in cryptocurrency, I'll buy Indiegogo.
All right, good luck with that.
Thanks. It's probably just going to be 100 million. Yeah. Nothing big. We'll see. So what else you got?
Okay, let's pull up some stuff. What was one of the cooler things? Oh, actually, here is something. Let me change it in the info box. I'm going to try to keep our info box updated when we're talking about things. But we're going to be talking about how... wait, come on, change. Info box. Let's go. Control A. The lolly stays.
Oh, yes.
Which is one that I posted in the Vomitorium I think it was yesterday or whatever. And it was about Cyberpunk Edge Runners. So, do you know about Cyberpunk Edge Runners, aside from this little thing? What
I hadn't heard about it until yesterday.
Yeah, so it's a new show on Netflix. It was made by Studio Trigger, who makes a lot of really cool anime and stuff. Their style is pretty apparent. Like, if you've seen any of their other stuff before and then you look at it, you're like, yeah, that's Studio Trigger, right? And they made an officially licensed show for Cyberpunk called Cyberpunk Edge Runners. And the issue is that they're always willing to do controversial stuff. Always. And the main, or not the main character, there's many main characters, but the most popular character is a girl named Rebecca, who in the cyberpunk world, all people are heavily augmented. And you have this grown woman who is considered a Lolita character because she looks like a girl, like a younger girl.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's probably going to happen if we ever do end up in some weird synth future, that there are going to be people who just choose to look like that. But CD Projekt Red did not like this character, that she existed or anything like that, and had asked the show runners to not include her. And Studio Trigger stood up to them and was like, no, the lolly must stay, or you just don't get the show at all. Like, we're just not going to do it. And after the studio stood up to them, yeah, you could put
You don't have to make that big if you don't want.
Yeah, no, small. Yeah, hey, yeah, that's actually where I heard about it, was from him. I've been following him since the Gamergate days when he was doing Trigger Happy with Vivian and all that. Love his stuff. But yeah,
can I share a video with audio? Will that play?
If I unmute it, yeah. Here, I usually just keep you mute just in case when it comes to the screen share.
Yeah. Do you want to watch this like 23-second video?
Yeah. Just real quick, let me finish the statement I was making.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to.
So after they pushed back, CD Projekt Red stepped down because they put a lot of money into the show and they realized they weren't going to convince them out of it. And they just let them run as is. What's the video got to say?
Well, this lady on the right, I think, is from CD Projekt Red. She was one of the people who wanted to get rid of the lolly. Or I think she calls it the. Me. Yeah, see if you can hear this.
I was one of the people on the creative team to actually vote Rebecca out of the original cast during pre-production. Because what happened was that CD Projekt Red first got the character design for Rebecca, and they were like, she's a loli. Lolis don't exist in Night City. It doesn't fit the
Loli's
Cyberpunk
probably more
2077
accurate, but everybody
aesthetic.
just calls them lollies.
But Trigger was like, no, the loli must stay. I was one.
So that was it.
Yeah. Loli would probably be a more accurate way to say it since it comes from the word Lolita, but everyone just calls them lollies. Probably because it sounds like a lollipop, and you associate like lollipops with little kids, so it's just like one of those fitting mind things.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt with that, but
No, that's perfectly fine. Because that's basically the story, but what's bigger about it is how a lot of like controversy has built up about it on the normal people, Twitter and stuff, where there are people like, yes, this is a victory, and other people like, no, this is horrible. Why would they even let that happen? And it's really just a simple, stupid situation. But I do like to see a studio standing up for their creative effort for once, because there's too much like production companies getting in the way of just any creative endeavor. Like, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. You have to do things exactly the way that we say you have to.
so the character is an adult, right?
Yes,
I mean, they're
she
not.
is a
There's
grown woman.
And there's no sexual situations, are there? I mean, in the show.
I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. I know in the game, there's a lot of sexual situations. But as far as I know with this character, she's kind of just like a sociopath.
Yeah.
Just kills people. So I mean, I'm gonna watch the show. I'm gonna give it proper review, but I really don't think there's anything wrong with this character, especially knowing the history of Studio Trigger. Like, it's probably just fun, and it's probably actually just a better example of what Cyberpunk is supposed to be than the game itself.
Yeah, like, it just drives me nuts when artists or whatever will draw like a character from an anime.
Yeah.
That's whether they're, they'll just draw a character wearing clothes, standing there, maybe making a funny face or something, and people will be like, that character's 14, and I'm like, and?
Like 14-year-olds exist. They're in the world.
I'm like, they didn't draw them in any kind of lewd, explicit way. They just drew them fully clothed. Like, hey, what's your point? It's like people are projecting. They're like, they just see the character and they're like, oh my God, I immediately think of sex. So you must.
Well, it's because these are people who sexualize anything that doesn't look like a round cartoon. I think that's actually the main reason why like that bean mouth style exists, is because that's the only way they can draw a character without sexualizing them.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it just looks realistic. Like, I've seen people draw, like, even like those characters that are like a 4,000-year-old dragon, but she looks like a 12-year-old girl. People will draw it just not in any kind of, lewd situation. People will freak out. Oh my God, that's a minor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't understand people, especially because like, it's fictional too. Like, it is fictional. It's not even a real person.
I mean, I can understand if it was like something, even if it was just anime, fictional person, doesn't look like anyone in real life. If it's depicting a minor in some kind of really explicit sexual situation, I might object to that.
Yeah.
But if they're just in the show...
It also even really depends, too. Like, what if they're not even gratifying the situation? What if it's played off for horror or something like that? Like, there's so much nuance onto how a character could be depicted, but people just jump to... the worst Puritanism possible at every chance. And
if it's an adult show marketed to adults, they're not like trying to market the Smurfs and with a lowly. I don't know. It's crazy.
Aren't all Smurfs, like the female Smurfs by definition, lowlies? I mean, they don't have anything to them.
Yeah.
They all look young, even the adults.
She just has like the most plain white dress.
But Metal, it's probably got tentacles involved. That's fine. As long as it's marketed towards adults, I can call those adults creepy people, but it's their life to live. Nobody's being harmed here. Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe them mentally, but again, that's their life to live. Yeah.
Smurfs horror movie.
There's the Winnie the Pooh one, so it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. But Chad brings up something, which happens to be another story I have pulled up, so let's get that. And he's like, Metal, excited for the Genshin Impact anime. So let me pull that story out here. Where is the tab for? Here we go. So, Genshin Impact anime project has been announced, and the concept trailer has been revealed. They did say which studio. Where was it? Dang, I saw this earlier. May not have pulled up the article that had the studio that was doing it. But yes, they are taking the wonderfully popular game Genshin Impact, and they're turning into an anime. It doesn't say what the name of the studio here, but I do remember it's whatever the same studio that did Demon Slayer is going to be doing Genshin Impact, which, while I'm not a fan of Demon Slayer, as popular as that series is, the animation style, if they even just pulled that out, and how vibrant and colorful it is, would fit Genshin Impact perfectly. And the series actually has a pretty good story to it. In fact, I might prefer it in anime form to where I don't have to deal with the gacha mechanics and can just enjoy the story for what it is. So maybe I'm excited for it, depending on how accurate of an adaptation it is.
It's like the movie pauses every 30 minutes and says, insert $1.99 to continue.
It's even worse than that. It's like, insert $1.99 for 10 spins. Hopefully, you'll get a continue out of one of those 10 spins.
Yeah. It's a company called I'm going to destroy this. Ufotable.
Ufotable?
That's, studio that made Demon Slayer, he said.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Ufotable, but...
Is it Ufotable?
UFO Table.
Yeah,
that's how it's spelled.
UFO table. Yeah.
Maybe that's how it's pronounced. UFO Table.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
They made God Eater and Fate Zero.
I never watched Fate Zero. I am familiar with the Fate series, but I never watched the anime. God Eater, though. I did check a few scenes just to see how much it compared to the game it was based on. And that seemed like a really good adaptation, right? So, all three of these now. So if you count Fate, we count God Eater, and now Genshin Impact. It shows a pattern of them adapting video game stories. And the other two I've heard good things about. So I can only assume that they're going to do a good job. May not be true, but I think that's the better side to err on, that they have a track record of adapting these type of games well, that they should do well with this adaptation.
Yeah. You want to watch the trailer? It's like 3 minutes.
Sure, yeah.
Probably shouldn't turn on that. Well, I've got it muted.
Oh, I mean, I should probably remute your stream anyway, just for safety's sake. Not that it really matters anymore. We're not recording things for the podcast, and this channel's never getting monetized.
Okay. There we go. Stars. That's it. That's the whole game.
Yep.
See, there it is. UFO Table. So yeah, you've played more Genshin Impact than I have, I guess.
I have. I actually been wanting to get back into it a little bit, just because I do have enough characters that I can do whatever I want in the game. And they've recently been adding more content. It's just...
You've been playing Final Fantasy.
I have. I've been playing a better game.
Oh no, it's what's her name?
No, you mean Rations?
Paimon? Paimon?
Yeah, no, Rations.
Why do you call her Rations?
It's a joke at the beginning of the game where you say that she's emergency rations, and it even comes up a couple times when people ask you about Paimon. It's like, oh yeah, that's my emergency rations.
Oh.
Yeah. It's
So it
a
looks like
choice
the
that you
game-
can make. You don't have to call her that, but I choose to refer to her as emergency rations every time because I don't really care for Paimon.
Gotcha. So this is an anime, so it's going to be a series, right?
Yes.
Like multiple seasons and all that.
There's more than enough content that they can do multiple seasons.
Yeah. And I was watching one of these.
Tivat looks good though. Like I like the way they rendered the world.
That's nice. Does it not look this good in the game?
No,
Not quite.
not quite.
Yeah.
The scale looks more appropriate in the anime. Obviously, like they want the world to feel bigger than it is, but it's like playing Breath of the Wild. When you actually count how long it takes you to get across the world, it's not that big.
Oh, really?
Like you have to be immersed for the world to feel as big as it is. But if you break your immersion ever and just glance, you're like, this world's actually pretty small. Things are pretty close to each other.
Yeah.
So it looks way better in this trailer. This is about the scale that you feel like it should be.
Mm-hmm. There's apparently no talking at all because I've got the subtitles on, but I haven't shown anything. Guessing it's just music and sound effects. But shoot, what was I going to say about that? Oh yeah, I watched one of these things, like the most popular anime from over the last 20 years. Have you ever seen one of those things where the chart keeps moving up and down? And
Oh yeah, yeah. It'll show you the shift in things,
yeah, over time.
and you see how like Dragon Ball and just kind of like stays there on the chart and stuff like that.
For the most part,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of near the top. But there were some I'd never heard of that were like incredibly popular. Sword Art Online,
Sword Art
that
Online
something you-
sucks.
really?
Yeah, I hate it.
It was really popular.
I know it was. Being in anime circles since like probably I would say middle school, because I don't think there were circles to be in around here before that. But I've been watching anime since I was in like elementary school. But being in circles since like middle school, you kind of know what is popular, and even the stuff that you think isn't good, you have to deal with because everyone's talking about it. And Sword Art was incredibly popular, and the entire time that people were watching this, and the idea had potential. But you know what? Dot hack was just better. All they did was dot hack worse. That's it. With the whole like, oh, if you die in the game, you die in real life kind of bait and switch. But like dot hack still just did it better.
Yeah, there was another one I wanted to ask you about.
Which one?
They kept popping up, and it would like every year, I guess they would come out with new episodes. So it would go like zooming to the top of the chart, and then it would just like completely disappear. Next year, top, gone, top. And most of them would like kind of stay, but there was one anime that confused the hell out of me, and I'd never heard of it before. And I'm trying to find the name. Yeah, the top ones are always like Naruto,
The big
Dragon
shonen
Ball,
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Attack on Titan blew everything out of the water.
Oh yeah, that one was extremely popular. I thought that one was kind of overrated. I think it handled politics really well for what it was, but I didn't think the writing was that good. And on the action front, it was essentially just a mech anime, but instead of mechs, they were titans, like flesh bags. That was it.
Yeah. Death Note was very popular for a while.
Yeah, I remember. Death Note, you know what? Death Note deserved its popularity.
Yeah.
I thought it was fairly predictable, but the writing and characterization was more important than the mystery, and I thought it did the characters well.
So I'm not going to be able to find it unless I actually play the video because it kept popping up very briefly and then it would disappear. But
What happened to Dot Hack? It's still technically around. It just... Dot Hack Sign as an anime was fairly popular. The games have never been that popular. They've been kind of niche, but niche enough to continue. They've had a few anime adaptations, but it's just too small of an audience. Which is another reason why Sword Art Online was disappointing, because it's like, man, the writing in this isn't even as good as Dot Hack, and it's like 100 times more popular. It's like, why? Why?
yeah. High School of the Dead was pretty popular
Yeah,
for
I
a
remember
while.
that one. That one's never going to be popular again.
And then I'll have to go back and watch it because there was like like Pokemon was kind of hanging out, and then it boomed up to the top for some reason. I don't know if some movie came out or what, but the one I was going to ask you about was Slam Dunk.
Slam Dunk. I like Slam Dunk.
Like, it's weird because that was the only one that I noticed that kept going way up and way down and way up.
Yeah,
and way
yeah.
down.
It's because of the release schedule is part of it.
Yeah.
Slam Dunk was made by the same guy who made Vagabond. Very, very talented writer. He actually has another one too. That's like a follow up for. I can't remember the name of it. It might be called Wheels or something. But it's it hasn't had an adaptation yet. It's only manga. But it's basically another basketball one. But it's wheelchair basketball. So it's kind of like a follow-up to Slam Dunk. It's cool.
Oh, Slam Dunk isn't the wheelchair basketball one?
No. Slam Dunk is the normal, competitive, highly competitive, high-grade basketball. And then there's like a follow-up one. There's like a wheelchair basketball one that's really cool. Same
I can't
person.
imagine.
Just decided to do more basketball instead of going back to like wandering Ronin stories or anything like that.
How do you make an entire anime about basketball? Is there the team? Is there drama?
Oh yeah, there's a team. There's a few like important characters.
Yeah.
But it's not that hard. You can make an anime about anything. It's the writing style, right? And you could follow like their like journey through a circuit, the different teams they have to play against. And basketball is a very physical sport too. There's a lot that you could do within a single game to make it interesting. You can go inside the heads of the people, basically. Like a lot of it can be internal monologue while things are going on. Like it's honestly not that hard. Shoot, there was a popular anime from a manga called The Prince of Tennis, which was an entire anime about tennis
Yeah.
that people like. You know, like they do it. It's not really all that hard. You can make a battle shonen feeling story about chess if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm. I'm
I'm
curious.
sure somebody has.
Yeah. GMT says she's willing to bet her favorite anime never made the list. Curious to know what that is. There's a bunch on here that I've never seen before, heard of.
One of my favorite anime is Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, which was fairly popular for a while.
Well, they had Ghost in the Shell on the list. I think this is based on Google searches
Yeah.
over time. So,
Yeah, so because Ghost in the Shell was originally a movie series where they had like three, I think it was three? It's 2 or 3 movies. I think it was 3 back in the 90s. But then around the turn of the millennia, as CGI was incorporated into like TV shows more, there was a reboot that followed the manga more closely than the movies did. And it was called Standalone Complex, Ghost in the Shell. And it is great. It's probably one of the best anime I've ever seen. I'd recommend it to anyone. Oh, Bubblegum Crisis. I knew you liked Bubblegum Crisis. I didn't know that was your favorite, though. Bubblegum Crisis is like one of those cult classics, I would say, where it's great, but its fan base is not as big as it deserves. Like, I wouldn't say it's extremely popular. It's definitely got a niche.
save this link for later. You can see for yourself.
Yeah.
If you want to watch it. It's not a very long video, but probably too long for us to watch the
Gunsmith
whole
Cats, on the other hand, Gunsmith Cats fan base is probably bigger than it deserves. I'm sorry to say. And I will not take that back.
I don't think I've ever seen either of those.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just to wrap that part back up, I do have decent expectations for the Genshin Impact anime project. I will probably watch it when it comes out.
Oh, it looks beautiful. Is that going to be on Netflix or Crunchyroll or?
Yeah. I don't think they said anything yet, honestly.
No.
It doesn't look. Yeah, no, it doesn't say where it's going to be. I hope it is not Crunchyroll. That's honestly, I just hope it's not Crunchyroll. I wouldn't be surprised, knowing them and trying to stay as open as possible, if they just put it on the internet. Because they have, there's a manga for Genshin Impact. That's actually one of the better ways that you can jump into the story, or they call it a manga. I think it qualifies because it is a Japanese art team working on it. But normally when you think of manga, you think black and white, and this is a full color comic, and you can read it for free right on the MiHoYo website for Genshin Impact. You just read the whole thing.
Yeah.
When they just put in new updates. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just have so much money, because Genshin Impact just makes so much from what it does, that they could just make it for ad revenue on YouTube or something like that, and they'd get by just fine.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I'm not holding my breath on that, but that would be cool.
TMG says the closest to manga I've ever seen is still Excel Saga, which is just mental.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I've seen anything that's actually closer to a manga than that. Probably not. That is a pretty close adaptation. In fact, back in the day, adaptations used to be so bad that they've even had to remake some shows that were closer to the manga. Like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. To be fair, though, even though it started splitting off fairly early, the show did end before the manga did, so that was part of the reason why they had to come back. But I mean, they were going off the rails in Full Metal Alchemist prior to catching up to where the manga was. But that's a big problem, right? Like, you get a lot of filler because they don't let a story end or get far enough before they start doing an anime. Or, like, you never know if, like, the artist needs to go on hiatus or something and the story just ends up dead for 3 years before coming back. And then the anime catches up and there's, like, what are we going to do? We still need to have a season out. So they just start making entire filler arcs for stuff.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Oh, what you got next?
What do I got next?
And I see a few
actually,
stories, but
yeah.
I don't know what you have. You might have something
I've
more
got
interesting.
a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Talk about Shadow's house is Flit.
Shadow's house. I don't know what that is. Not off the top of my head.
I don't know.
Let me look at this. If it's interesting, I'll talk about it. Shadow's House, my anime list. Came out last year. There's 2 seasons. Never read the manga. Face's clan lives in a large mansion masquerading as noble. Their caretakers are living dolls who spend their days cleaning up the dirt the tenants leave behind. But there's a deeper mystery at play, and the secrets of the house will be unveiled. It sounds interesting. I might check it out sometime. It seems to have pretty good audience reviews, too.
I don't like living dolls. Creepy.
Well, I think it's supposed to be creepy. And then I think that's kind of the point. Yeah, that's actually, Chad, that was one of the things on my list. And so I guess we could probably talk about that. So, thanks to the success of Cobra Kai and Sony Pictures being a part of the creation of Cobra Kai, Karate Kid is getting rebooted. Like the actual original franchise, they're returning to it.
Well, I don't know. Maybe not cool.
Yeah, that's another thing, right? So technically they're in it. Like they said they're returning to the original franchise, but they're in the franchise right now. That's a Cobra Kai is part of Karate Kid, so
is it gonna be a continuation of Cobra Kai? However, season 6 ends, or are they gonna ignore all that and do something else?
let's see.
That's my question.
Well, it said it is going to premiere. That's why it says premiere. So I'm guessing this is a series, right? On June 7th, 2024, almost 40 years after the date of the movie's original debut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be cool if it ends up being like a movie about the kids, Robbie and what's the other kid's name? What's his name?
Miguel.
Miguel, yeah.
Yeah. And
It's a movie version of the series.
Yeah. The original film start, blah, blah, blah. No details about the new movie's cast yet has been announced, so it's entirely a mystery. They just announced that they're returning to it.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knows what's going to happen. Even though we've yet to see a green light from Netflix expecting more Cobra Kai. I don't expect more Cobra Kai. Like this should probably be just like what happens after it, right? Like Cobra Kai has been taken care of. It is gone. It is dead. After the next season. It's not yet. I mean, for people who haven't seen it, there is still another season, but like we're assuming that it's going to be dead after the next season.
Yeah.
So if you want to like remove the name Cobra Kai, because if it doesn't exist, there's no point in that name being there anymore. Go back to making movies with the characters. Go back to the original branding. That's fine. It just the way that they worded of a new Karate Kid movie marks the return of the original franchise is just so weird to me. Because again, we're in the franchise.
Yeah. Not giving spoilers. We don't know what happens in season 6.
Yes. It's not spoilers because season.
We're just
I mean,
guessing.
if you want to talk spoilers, Sony and Netflix spoil it for you. They announced season 6 after 4 was over.
Yeah. We knew there was going to be a season 6, but I don't think we know.
Yeah.
I assume
Kappa.
That'll be it. Kappa.
You do a follow up Karate Adults. Yeah, that'd be funny.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at half the time now.
Yeah, right. In some cases, like Karate Senior Citizens.
Johnny Lawrence is gonna have a Morbin scene. Morbin out.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, as long as he's still one of the producers on it. Funny enough, Will Smith is also a producer on Cobra Kai.
Oh.
Yeah, if you pay attention to the credits, he's in there. And it makes sense. He fronted a lot of the money for the movie that his kid was in, the reboot to the Karate Kid. So he's probably very invested in the franchise. But like, as long as the people who've been making it are involved, then I don't think it matters if Sony continues to be the producer.
Mm-hmm.
Karate Kittens, a series of shorts. I'd watch that. As long as it's not like Samurai Pizza Cats or something like that, but...
Is that like what do they do when there's the Super Bowl? They have like Kitten Bowl and Puppy Bowl.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about, yeah. And they have
just
all the
show a bunch
kittens
of-
on the little rug or whatever doing their thing.
Yeah. Just frolicking around. They just put like a little bandana on them. Maybe a gi. Just let them frolic.
Karate Kids, Young Goats Fight. The other use of the word kid.
It says Samurai Pizza Cats was great. At least the dub was.
Well, so the dub and all that was great for all the wrong reasons. And I won't fault people for liking it for the dub. Conceptually, it was whack.
Is that one of those joke dub things that they
Kind of, sort of.
like Ghost Hunters or whatever?
Which actually, even I was doing more research too, and a lot of what we know about ghost stories is wrong. It's lies that have just been perpetuating on the internet for so long that it feels like truth.
Really?
Yeah. We'll get into that some other time because that would take quite a while to explain, and we only have like half the hour in the show. But yeah, apparently the ghost stories thing has a richer history than we previously thought. It wasn't just some people who got licensed to something that didn't succeed on its own merits and just made a joke out of it. Yeah.
It seemed like Vic Mignogna sort of confirmed some of that.
Some of it, yes, but it's a little more complicated.
Oh, okay. Because he was talking about it at Anime Matsuri and how they asked him to come in and say a few lines for it, and he did, but he was uncredited.
Yeah. Well, part of it is like a lot of the stories make it seem like the original studio wasn't involved in it. And that they kind of just like shoveled it off when it actually was part of the original Japanese studio idea to do this.
Okay.
Like it's actually a lot more complicated than the internet stories go about it.
Yeah.
And I think what happened when I was reading about it is that it started off with a Q&A about it at an anime convention in the past. but the Q&A was never proper, like wasn't recorded because it was before like the advent of putting everything on YouTube. It was the early days. And it just like one iteration of telephone after another kind of just grew into a different story.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. Well, just a recap for the people who came in a little bit late. Earlier in the program, we talked about an interesting Comicsgate drama with Indiegogo shadow banning. And what was the first thing oh yeah, Rings of Power. If you want to rewind or watch later.
But that was kind of our cold open thing that lasted for a little bit because we were just bullshitting before we came in.
Yeah. I just wanted to, because I noticed a lot of people came in late. I just wanted to recap in case you want to watch it later. I think we had it. Showed off some fancy code. Just kidding. With Indiegogo. Did you know there are 15 games in development at Square Enix? 15.
I probably did. Like, not specifically off the top of my head, but if I started, like, counting all the games I know that they're developing, and then the fact that you never know every game that a company is developing, 15 seems like a very reasonable guess.
Yeah. They definitely need to get rid of some stuff. Get rid of some studios. GMG says Rings of Power was so close to what you wanted. Yeah, it's like
close. Yeah.
I mean, here's some interesting news, though. By the way, going back to that. Well, this is not news; it's rumors. Rumor is that Jeff Bezos is very, very unhappy with the way it's going, and it's entirely possible. But obviously, nobody knows. But it's entirely possible they could completely retool for the next season. Yeah. Get in a whole completely different set of writers, probably the same actors, which is fine. But it's the writers that are the problem. And just completely retool. I don't know how difficult it would be to sort of retrofit the shitty story of season 1 into a decent story of season 2.
Yeah.
But rumor is that's a definite possibility that they could just be like, this is going horribly. Let's just like start over practically. And it might get better. Hopefully. Or not.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe
know.
none of it. Who knows?
I don't know if it has the capacity to get better. And I don't even just the retrofit. Like, do they even know how to reach out for a do they know what makes a competent writer when they see it? That's the bigger problem. Like, even if they replaced everything, who's to say they wouldn't just replace it with more incompetent people because they don't even know what to look for anymore?
Yeah. I mean, they could get a whole new slate of writers and they could be just as shitty.
Yeah, or worse.
Plus,
yeah.
Plus some people on like Friday Night Tights, which is where I heard this, of course, yesterday. That's another YouTube show in case you don't know. Yeah. They were saying that some of the people were saying the only way they could see that even working is if they basically just redid entire like season 1 from scratch.
Yeah.
And said, screw it. This doesn't exist anymore. Starting over. Let's try this again. And like they couldn't even see how they could fit, turn it into a better show.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think the people working on it now would even know what to do if you gave them.
Well, certainly
advice.
not.
Like, well, I'm talking about like even if you brought in a consultant, like a better writer to come in and to try to help improve their vision. The problem is that they don't even have a vision, right? The issue with this show is that they're kind of writing it as they're going along. So it's like you couldn't even take what they did and improve it because they don't even know where they're going, right? Like you'd have to scrap it.
They'd have to somehow magically find fantastic writers, new directors. I think different episodes have different directors, like better director. Get freaking Jackson in there. What was his name?
Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson in there.
Well, they tried to
Like,
get him in
fix
there, and they couldn't.
Yeah.
Right now, I mean, if they wanted to trash everything in back, Amazon has the money to pay him what he wants if they give him full control. But the reason he wouldn't go in is because they wouldn't even show him the script, and he wasn't going to work on something that he didn't know the script was. So,
Yeah.
the whole industry is so incestuous that are there even any competent writers left anymore? Yeah, there are. They're few and far in between. They are places you do occasionally see them, but the problem is, like, I don't think the industry recognize competency. Like, they don't know what is and isn't, so they don't even get those few people on the right projects. You just randomly see them show up.
Look,
You know,
House of the Dragon is really good. I love House of the Dragon so far. Even if you hate it, I mean, I hated season 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon's really good. Very good.
but that's the bigger problem is that
Somebody-
they can't recognize what competency is. So even if you ask them to put a good writer on something, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a good and bad writer.
And frankly, Cobra Kai writers are really good too.
Peter
That's a
Jackson
little
couldn't
different.
do it because there's no more Ralph Bakshi films to let him rip off. Yeah. And even if there was, I don't know, but Jackson was involved with The Hobbit, and those last 2 Hobbit films,
Yeah. They were better than this shit.
yeah.
They were so better than this.
But I mean, it's the start of a downhill trend, right? Like,
Yeah.
even though he has nothing to do with this, like, it's bad to put him in the trend. It's just that they're trying to say they're in the same universe, the same version of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. But anyway,
Yeah,
I did.
But that's
I
the
did-
thing. Jackson, though, isn't a writer. That's the problem, right?
Right. They need writers.
You could bring in a good director, but if you don't have good writers, it's like he can only fix so much. Like, a lot is fixed in the directing and editing side, but you can only fix so much if your script is shit. It's like, well, where am I going? Where's my roadmap? I
Yeah.
can change all the lines while we're there, but it still has to make sense. I have to have some type of follow through. I need to know where it's going, so if we change the lines, we don't break something later and stuff like that.
Yeah. But if you're watching, well, I'll just say this about the last, because I don't think we've talked about it. I'll just say this about the last episode of House of the Dragon. It's one of those episodes where nothing happens, really. It's just a lot of talking, and I mean, a little bit, but not really much happens. But it was like riveting. It's just like, I mean, if you really despise sort of the politics side of Game of Thrones, you might not have liked the last episode. Like, if you really hated it, which I don't particularly like that stuff, but I couldn't turn off. I mean, it's just, it was a compelling episode. That was very important. It was kind of like one of those bridges episodes where it's like, here's how we get from here to there.
Yeah.
But it's really well written. It's really good.
Yeah. To take your word on it, because I haven't seen it, but
Yeah.
the way you talk about it sounds good. It's like I say, I'll see it soon, because it's the last episode of the season. I want to binge through the whole thing, but I wasn't going to see it until the season was over.
Mm-hmm.
But Flit asked earlier too, why don't I add the topics discussed to the stream titles to make it easier to find specific episodes or to watch episodes of particular interest? It's something I should have been doing for a while. The big problem is, like, I could probably do it more frequently now, because immediately after the show's over, I'm not editing and processing out the podcast version of the show anymore, which is something I did do over on SoundCloud. Like, all the topics and stuff would be in the direct description, which would show up in the preview there, and there'd be some type of title for it. And I was always so busy doing that I would forget to come over and do something like that on YouTube. But given the fact that, like, after I hit end stream, that is the end of it. I don't have to do anything, so I could go back and just add some things. Not all of them, because we talk about a bunch of, like, little quick bits and stuff, but the major highlights, definitely.
Yeah, all you got to do is just change the title, and then just, like, copy the title into the description as well, and
Yeah.
probably. I know it's hard to remember to do that every time, but
Yeah, and it won't be. Now, it's something I've been considering doing. I should just do it. I'm not going to go back and do that, though. I mean, it'd be something we just do, like, from now going forward. But It was always just having to deal with doing all the podcast metadata stuff afterwards that I just didn't end up doing it. Yeah. But what was it? Speaking of Warner Brothers, have you guys heard about the patch to Velma? Oh yeah, that's kind of a interesting thing. Did you hear about the Multiverses patch to Velma?
I can't tell what you're saying. The multiverse is what?
Patch to Velma Dinkley.
Oh, yeah. Didn't we talk about that?
I don't remember if we did. Did we?
Maybe I just thought about it. I knew about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So,
Velma from Scooby-Doo.
yeah. I don't even know. I was going to put a topic title, but probably won't even last that long anyway. But basically, in Multiverses, which is the big fighting game, the Smash Brothers like thing for Warner Brothers, what they did was Velma had her super, like everybody's got like their big super move or whatever, and being a member of Mystery Inc., she would call the cops on the person that she defeated because it turns out they were really just a man in a mask, and the cops would take them away, which is what they did at the end of like every single episode of Scooby-Doo, because they're just teenagers. They're kind of like the equivalent of private detectives, but they're not vigilantes. Like, they didn't do some type of vigilante justice. After they caught somebody doing wrong, it's basically a citizen's arrest, they would call the cops, and the cops would come and do a proper arrest. But now, because people were memeing and using it on LeBron, funnily, they decided to patch her, a direct nerf to her character. Not to any mechanic. She's not weaker. Her character has been nerfed, and instead she calls in the gang to basically kidnap the person into the mystery machine and carry out vigilante justice on them.
That's much better.
Yeah, totally great.
See Fred just beating the shit out of him. Yeah, you know, what's funny is like, if they had just like quietly changed it, like, I don't know how many people would have noticed. I mean, obviously people would play the game.
Yeah.
Like, they made this big announcement about it. Oh, we're going to virtue signal. We're taking the cops out. Because 3 people complained about it on Twitter. It's like, just, if you're going to do it, I mean, that's not a big deal. Just do it.
Yeah.
Like, putting out a press release. Stupid fucking virtue signals.
Especially because, like, I think most people, unless you point it out, outside of the people playing the game, a lot of people probably wouldn't even have known what her move was before, that she was calling the cops. And it would not have felt as weird. It was just like, oh, the gang just shows up. You know, like, okay, that makes sense, I guess. But the fact that they're showing up to do this in replacement of cops, then you're like, okay, well, now this just feels like crazy vigilante justice in the context of this situation.
Maybe they should have had like a black car with FBI on the side.
Oh,
like
the feds,
you know, since some of these crazy people seem to love the feds.
Well, I think he's suggesting that the feds are already showing up and vanning them. Maybe the gang were just glowies the whole time.
Yeah. The mystery machines, just the front.
Yeah. I think that's also like Shaggy acted like a stoner, right? The entire time.
Yeah.
But you never actually once see him doing anything. I think it's all part of his like disguise. He's an undercover cop trying to blend in with the hippies.
Well, you know, Shaggy's real name was actually Ray Epps. I don't know if you heard of that.
Oh, Well, I mean, just saying, even if you go by freaking, was it Norman Rogers, right? His dad was a cop in a pup named Scooby-Doo. I think he was like the chief of police in Coolsville.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And his son was a stoner, huh?
Yeah. But I mean, you know, his son did go into detective work, so I guess he's still kind of in the family business type thing.
Still solve crimes and stuff.
Yeah. No, Norville, that was it. Yeah. I don't know if I said Norman. It was Norville Rogers. But still, you know, his dad was a police chief, so.
Mhm. I don't know if this story is interesting. No, probably not. Anyway, yeah, that was just dumb.
Yeah. No, what story
Guys,
did
what-
you think would possibly be interesting?
Well, did you ever watch the Fletch movies with Chevy Chase?
No, I did not.
There's a new Fletch movie that came out yesterday, apparently, starring John Hamm as Fletch instead of Chevy Chase. I can't imagine it would be nearly as funny. Oh, someone's knocking on the door.
Yeah, somebody was knocking. It's probably just to tell me that food's ready, but you know, they know the
Yeah,
schedule. It's the same time every single Wednesday and Saturday.
Well, apparently, if you want to see the new Fletch movie, it's out on digital streaming somewhere on demand. John Hamm. I thought it looked
Yeah.
mildly humorous. And then in other movie news, Clerks 3 sucks.
Yes, I did see
Absolutely
that.
sucks.
Yeah. Here, I'll put that on because that's kind of sad. Clerks 3 bombs
Yeah.
was the whole thing, and man, you don't want it to bomb because Clerks 1, excellent movie. Such a, like if you watch Clerks 1, you understand why Smith got a career in the first place.
Yeah.
Clerks 2, which was made pretty much at
Mallrats
the
was-
well, Mallrats was great, but like even just closing, those were the bookends, right, of the original franchise with Jay and Silent Bob. It was Clerks and then Clerks 2, and then everything else was in between those two, right? So you had like Mallrats, you had Chasing Amy, you had Dogma, and you had Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and you have like your bookends there. But both bookends were great movies that had serious character development. After that, though, almost everything that he's made after Clerks 2 has been, well, I want to say horrid. There have been some redeeming factors to some of the movies. I got some laughs out of Yoga Hosers, as odd and stupid as a movie that was. I wouldn't say it's good, but I got some enjoyment out of it. But everything's just been subpar since then. And part of it's like the heart attack that he had, and it's kind of changed a lot about him and the people he hangs around. And he's got like, in this interview, he's even talking about that he's got fears of being irrelevant in Hollywood, right? And it's like, well, dude, you're making movies for all the wrong reasons if that's the case.
I mean, I don't think he had any expectation of relevance when he made Clerks.
Exactly.
He was just like fucking around and see what happens if we.
Was an experience.
Yeah, I think I saw that. You know, Clerks was just like, hey, why don't you two guys just like riff about blowjobs for 10 minutes, and now just talk about annoying customers for a while. Like,
Yeah.
it was great. I loved it. I thought Clerks 2 kind of sucked too.
Clerks 2 is not as good as the first one, by far.
Yeah.
But it does have really good character development in it. I think the jokes aren't as good. That's the bigger problem. Like you're expecting Clerks level jokes. I like the pacing in the original 2, where all the sections are like cut up. They've got little titles to it. It's got this very independent movie vibe because it was an independent movie. Clerks the animated series was better than the original movie. I will agree with that. But Clerks 2 had its charm to it. The character development was good. I think, though, it starts to show that everything was going downhill for Smith, right? Especially following up like Jay and Silent Bob, Strike Back, was nothing but a laugh fest. Like, that was all it was. There was no, like, merit to the movie aside from being a comedy. It's fine to make comedies like that, but it really stood out as different from every other movie he was making up to that point.
Hmm. I'll tell you, I think the first Kevin Smith movie I ever saw was Chasing Amy,
Yeah.
and I thought it was great.
Oh, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
For most people, I wouldn't recommend that be their first experience for him, but it's a great movie. But, I mean, compared to stuff he's doing now, that's an amazing first experience with Kevin Smith. It would make you think he's a competent director and writer, which I don't think any modern movie he's made or TV show he's worked on or anything like that would really give you that those details, or that impression.
Yeah.
I think Mallrats was my first one, like
Mhm.
GMT.
Yeah, I went back and watched all those. I was like, what's with these movies? They're weird. Let's go watch all the old ones.
Yeah, but they were weird in kind of like an artist doing his thing kind of way. Like there was a lot of like spirit to the movies, and they were telling good stories. Like a lot of them did have almost like a hero story arc, despite being a comedy, which was good. Even the first one with Clerks, the way things were cut off, it was actually resembling Dante's Inferno, which is part of like the joke that the main character's name is Dante, which is kind of missing from the follow-up movie Clerks 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I do kind of agree with Buck too. He says he doesn't give a solitary shit about Smith anymore, ever since he got called out for He-Man instead of sucking up and admitting it was true. Called for fans to essentially boycott him, knowing full well that kind of call would lead to harassment. Yeah.
And he owes Clownfish TV an apology.
He does. He still owes them an apology, and he won't do it.
They basically called the entire He-Man, season 1. I mean, they didn't spoil it, but they basically said this is what it's basically going to be about. It's not going to be about He-Man.
Well, they got it from a leak, and they were trying to say that, no, they're lying. They didn't actually get a leak. They're just saying these things. But then everything was true. It's like, well, then clearly they did get it from a leak.
Yeah, Jackson just came out and flat out said, that's a lie. None of that's true. And I was 100% true.
Yep.
And he caused them so much grief because, then all of his fans, all of his millions of fucking fans came after Clownfish and called them all, every name in the book.
Yeah.
So
it's awful. I think the worst part too is like maybe he knew that Clerks 3 was going to be a failure, because this did not get theatrical release, like a full theatrical release. You can only watch it in Fathom events, or he was kind of doing like a college screening tour. Like people in college want to see a Kevin Smith film. Maybe if this was a decade and a half or 2 decades ago, people in college might have wanted to see a Kevin Smith film. But now only like you're all adults are his audience. He doesn't have a young audience. Actually, now he doesn't have any audience apparently. But
yeah, I mean, he keeps reusing the same characters, the same actors, and they're all old. It's like I saw Chasing Amy when I was in college 20 years ago.
Yeah, like the people who are interested in Jay and Silent Bob as characters are going to be probably between the age of 27 and like 62. That is the range of people who know who these characters are. Yeah.
GMT says he's turned into Grandpa Simpson with I used to know what it was, and then it changed.
Yeah. And one day it will happen to you.
Yeah. What does he say now? And it is scary and strange.
Old Abe. So actually, Abe's one of my favorite characters in The Simpsons. I would put him in like my top 5 favorite characters. All the funniest bits happen with Abe.
Yeah. There it is again. 1 more minute. 1 more.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell him, wrapping up. But he's like, "Your steak's getting cold." It's like, well, I've got a schedule.
Last thing before we wrap up.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of you today. You know why?
Why?
Because I forget which number, 11th circuit, whichever 5th circuit, your circuit court just came out with a ruling yesterday that basically said in the state of Texas, which is the one that was suing Twitter, Twitter cannot censor people for political viewpoints.
Haha, get fucked.
Yeah. They basically said the First Amendment, free speech, cannot be applied to a company exercising their First Amendment by censoring people. The judge said that makes absolutely no sense. They said the First Amendment speech of the people on the platform take precedence over the platform's ability to censor them. And so now, obviously it's going to be appealed probably to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But at the moment, theoretically at least,
that's probably actually going to be good for everyone, because
Yeah.
the last big case that my circuit appealed to the Supreme Court led in freaking Roe v. Wade being overturned.
right. Was that Texas?
Yeah, that was
well?
Texas.
Oh God.
That was over the
Yeah,
heartbeat
so-
bill.
So basically, Texas is saying, or the judge said, at least theoretically for people that live in Texas, they can't be censored on Twitter for legal speech. I mean, as long as they're not literally breaking the law with like death threats or CP or, actual illegal activity, they're supposed to not be censored anymore on Twitter.
No, I mean, this doesn't change my behavior at all, because I didn't give a
Yeah.
shit if I got blocked or banned
You
on
don't
Twitter
use
in the
Twitter,
first
yeah.
place.
Yeah.
But, you know what? It's still fuck Twitter.
Yeah. By the way, I live in Texas now. I don't know if you knew that. I'm going to change my address. So just so everyone knows, just so Twitter knows. So I don't know if that's actually going to change anything as far as their behavior until it gets to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and I do think, I agree with Flit there. I think it is in conflict with a ruling from the 11th Circuit. So it probably is going to be going to the Supreme Court, because these are two different circuits that have conflicting rulings with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, VPN into Texas, they can't tell.
Yeah, exactly. From anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Just
I
use
thought
the
I'd bring
Dallas
that up.
server. It's one of the bigger servers in the country, too.
Yeah. Ricada Law retweeted the judge's decision with a holy shit. Like, this is huge. So I guess we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah. And with that, we're at the end of the show, because I have to use the restroom and eat a steak that's getting cold. So thank you all for watching. We actually had quite a few people show up in the chat today. If you enjoy the show, please share it with somebody else who might enjoy it. And if you really enjoy the show, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitorium live. You can find it in the description and also scrolling across the screen right now. And in the meantime, we'll see you guys in the next episode on Wednesday. Same time, same place.
See ya. All right, I'll let you go then.
currently watching The Vomitorium. You can support the show at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Enjoy the show! Hiya, besties! Did you know that everything becomes a crab eventually? Even you, bestie! That's a bit scary, isn't it? But don't worry, you can find comfort here, watching The Vomitorium. You and other fellow soon-to-be crabs can also support The Vomitorium at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live.